You have been at this for a while now. Have you picked the brains of other NHL owners who have gone through this? Because the NHL has, with Utah coming into the league, Vegas, Seattle recently.
Well, I haven't. I've had a few discussions with a couple of the owners, but we have a consultant, Carl Hirsch, who has built a number of arenas around the country. He was our first hire, and has been extremely helpful. And so he has acted as a great consultant for us.
So I'm old enough to remember when the Flames came into the league, when the Thrashers came into the league. We saw some success for both franchises at key times. And I know the demographics have changed and the locations changed, but can you understand the doubting Thomases out there about Atlanta and hockey?
I definitely can. But I think that, I've lived in that town since 1989. And of course, that was well after the Flames. But, when the Flames were there, Atlanta was, I don't think there was 1 million people in Atlanta. And then hard economic times came. So, but the second team, I think it had to do, with a dysfunctional ownership. And the story was that the team wanted to buy the Hawks and really didn't even want the Thrashers, and Ted Turner made him take the Thrashers. Now that's the story. And so I don't know that the commitment was there. And the location, it just was a bad location. Like I say, I was a season ticket holder, and it wasn't an enjoyable experience. I think what we're going to offer is, if you want to go to a Thrashers game, when you wanted to go to a Thrasher game, you just got down there right before the game started and left immediately when it was over. And, it wasn't surrounded by a great environment. And what we're going to provide is, you'll be able to come to a hockey game up in Forsyth County. You can go there 2-3 hours beforehand. You can shop, you can eat, you can, a lot of activities, and then you can stay afterwards. So, it's just a whole different environment.
By the way, I think you almost slipped up and told us the name there. I think you got do you have an idea for a name yet?
We have some ideas, but I think it would be bad luck to discuss that before we even get a team.
But it would raise Gary Bettman's eyebrows for
That's
sure.
For sure.
Well, yes, we only want to raise the eyebrows in a good way with them. So,
how often do you communicate with the commissioner?
Well, for the last 3 years, I feel like that I've at every point that we've crossed a hurdle, I have communicated the progress that we've made. I've been in constant communication with them on the progress we've made.
The one of the storylines for any of the teams in the Sun Belt, and I'm going to include Atlanta in the Sun Belt, is promoting the game. Dallas has done a magnificent job of building arenas and promoting minor hockey. I think, Darren, you would agree the same has happened in Vegas. The amount of minor hockey, or in the United States they call it youth hockey, played in Vegas. Where are you with that, Vernon? Because that's part of growing the game, not just building a hockey franchise and playing in the NHL.
No question, and we have big plans for that. We have, in addition to our 100-acre site, we have an 18-acre site where we will plan to build our practice facility, but also a couple of community ice rinks right there. We have earlier this year sponsored a team from Atlanta to play in the Pee Wee tournament in Quebec City.
Oh, wow.
And so we actually won a game up there, so we feel good about that. So we have big plans. my goal is that within 5 years that University of Georgia, Georgia Tech, and Kennesaw State are playing Division I hockey. Of course that's at a greater level. That's not, and then we've already talked with the school board about high school hockey. They're excited about that, and then of course we have to have junior hockey, and that involves rinks, and like I said, we're going to be building at least 2 and probably 3.
Did you ever see yourself as this flag waver for the sport of hockey?
Well, no, but I do now. So, I've always loved the game. I've always loved the game. My father was in the military when I was growing up, and so I've lived when he retired the majority of my life in the South, and you got your one game on Sunday afternoon, so it was hard to really see much hockey. But I've always, ever since the first time I ever went to a game live, I've been a huge fan. There's nothing like.
I was going to say, what is it about the game that you like?
Well, it's nonstop action. I mean, I don't want to badmouth baseball, but in baseball, you can turn away and you can talk, and you can, in hockey, you turn away for a second and you miss a goal. So, it's just nonstop action. I love it. I think they're great athletes, and the players I've met have been really nice people.
Timeline, Vernon, where are you? You're going to try to meet Gary this summer.
Yes.
And so in your planning stages, you and Mr. Hirsch are talking about a hockey team on the ice when?
Well, I think that if things go well this summer with the NHL, we can be ready for the 28 season. And that's our goal.
So 28-29.
28-29 season. Well, that's our goal.
And you would have no trouble meeting that from a construction situation?
I don't believe so. I think we've talked with contractors, and I mean, we have an architect employed. We've done a lot of work on the development of our arena, and we think we can get a shovel in the ground in 9 months.
Wow.
How much money have you poured into this?
Well, a lot.
Yeah,
a lot.
With no guarantee of a team.
With no guarantee of a team. So it's
substantial amount.
Yes. I don't. If it's okay, I'd rather not say, but it's millions of dollars, and but all along, I have a strong belief that hockey would be so successful in Atlanta, and I believed all along that the NHL that we can make a case, and we are making a case. And when we go to meet with Gary, I think we can make face to face a great case.
How confident are you then? How confident?
Well, I'm very confident. I think that, I look at it and it just seems like that if I'm an owner, if I'm on the other side, if I'm in the NHL, expanding to a market like Atlanta is great for the league. So I think that they will see that. I think that they will see that after our presentation, I think they'll see that we've done our homework and we have a project that will be good for the NHL.
And it will be known as Atlanta, though, I would assume, even though it's in Forsyth County.
No, the team.
Yeah.
No, the team name would start with the word Georgia.
Wow.
And why is that?
Well, look where the money's coming from. Come on now. Here's, in the beginning, when somebody said, Atlanta's failed twice, and my wife said to me, she said, Atlanta's failed twice, but Georgia hasn't failed. And so that just stuck with me. And I think that, and we're going to be Georgia's team. If we're fortunate enough to get a franchise, we'll be Georgia's team.